Hey everyone, welcome to Dr. Frank's Finance World. I'm Dr. Frank the Bank, and I'm going to try to teach you guys something tonight about Stocktrak. I've done Stocktrak done it for many years now, and it's a pretty cool game. There are ways, however, you can help yourself out quite a bit in how you compete. And so I'm making this, I don't know, call it cheater video, whatever you want, rules of engagement. But it's a Stocktrak video to try to, not sponsored by them, by the way, but trying to let you guys know that there are ways you can improve your odds, I think. And after probably 15 years of doing this with many different classes and students, I'm going to pass those on to you. So first things first, the setup matters. The faculty get to set up their own games. I set mine up every semester. The rules that we put in can make a big difference in the strategies. I'm going to show you what it looks like for a professor when they set that up, but make sure you read and understand them. That is how you're going to have your best chance to compete. And here is how I set up my classes. So you can see here that, hopefully you can see anyway. Let me blow this up a little bit. You can see that I do get to set a minimum stock price for buying and selling and all that kind of stuff out there. And so, let's see, let me put the draw in here. So for me, it's actually $3. I'm not going to let people do penny stocks out there. And a matter of fact, the minimum price for shorting is $3. And the interesting thing about that, as far as I'm concerned, is we're going to talk about shorting it. But if you take a short position on a stock and it drops below $3, at least in the past, you couldn't close it out because you can't transact on anything less than $3, right? So that's something to think about. And it's just sharp and trainer ratios and all the rest. Are you allowed to short at all? We have a choice on that. I let my students and teams do that. Do they allow day trading out there? I allow that as well. We'll talk about the meaning of that and how that impacts it. Or if you have to do trade notes, I don't have my students do that, but we'll talk about that further in the video as well. Do you want your professor account to appear in the rankings? Some of them, I guess, would rather not, but whatever. And it's not public. So the next page that we actually get to impact here is about what we get to choose that you invest in. And for me, I pretty much let them invest in almost anything out there, including cryptocurrencies. I have some thoughts on that are not positive necessarily, but at any rate, the position limit that I require, though, is you cannot go more than 25% in one individual position. There are some ways around that a little bit, and we'll talk about that too, but at any rate, that is some of the markets you can be in. There are some you can be in, there are some that you're not. I don't let them get into really small ones over there and that kind of stuff, so... Anywho, and the next one is, can you do mutual funds, bonds, and options? Yes, actually you can with the same limits in that type out there. You put 100% into bonds, but at any rate, you have to have 4 different bonds. That's what diversification is all about. So anywho, you can do those. You can also do options. Early on in my class, I tend to do an options lesson so that students that want to invest in that can out there. But I do allow students to do options as well because I think that should be part of a strategy or at least a thought out there. Next is, can you do futures and the futures on options and foreign exchange like dollars and currencies and all that kind of stuff out there? I let students do futures and options on futures out there. And that does put some strategies in there as well when it's all said and done. But, you may or may not have that. You might even ask if your professor will print this out so you guys can see it. Finally, whether you want to be in cash markets or all that, that's all fine. If they allow you to margin, which I do, interest on the loan and that type of stuff. So, anywho, that's what the professor's game is about. And remember, you were playing their game. So, strategies, play earnings announcements. Many years ago, the CNBC used to have a stock and actual trading game that they had, sort of ran like Stocktrak in a way, but the person who earned the highest return actually got $1 million portfolio. And several times during that competition, I noted that the people would play earnings announcements. And so I have a lot of students that do that too. You find them in an earnings calendar. They have one, for instance, on Yahoo Finance. I say go big or go home on those, especially try to max out your order. And the idea is you look at it, you can see what analyst estimates going into it are. If they're going up, you tend to have better than average. Going down, the opposite. If there's some volatility is what you're really playing on, that's the best. You can also play options, which is another option, right? You can go out there and do, but it's taking bets around that time period to see what it will do. And then whatever the moment is that it hits, and you may make or lose your 2, 4, 5, 6%. You might even think about limit orders there. That is where you're going to make your money. And I have had students win competitions in my classes just playing on earnings announcements. Don't short cheap stocks. That's what I was trying to warn you about. You can't close out the short. And the bottom line is you could lose money even though you're right, which is a bummer. And that actually literally becomes dead money. You can't sell it for the rest of the competition. So that becomes a bummer for you as well. I use a lot of exchange traded funds. I've done research on exchange traded funds. Not always the best buy and hold, to be honest with you, out there, but great for games like this. It allows you to focus on very specific areas. If you go to my website, drfranksfinanceworld.com, you'll see at the end of this video, on the areas that you can get links to and that type of stuff. One of them is called Vetify. It is phenomenal when you see what it looks like in there for ETFs. All around the world and all kinds of stuff. A lot of information. I also look at leverage exchange traded funds. Direction is one that does those. You can Google them and look them up. But the neat thing is they typically have an up, triple, or double, and they also typically have the inverse, which means you can bet the same, in other words, if you thought it was going to fall, you could short the ETF and you could buy the ETF that would go down, the inverse, and sort of double your bet that way if you want to. So, okay, so use options on ETFs. I didn't know if you realize that. There are, on most exchange traded funds, there are options out there available for them as well. These may be particularly thinly traded. We'll talk about what that means in a minute, but basically you can get burned on contracts that are thinly traded if they're not in the money. There can be options on the leverage ETFs. I actually buy that occasionally for my personal portfolio. I've made some bets that regard too, so students. Options position, each position can have 25% restriction. What does that mean? Let's say you picked a company, and FINRA won't let me pick a company for you, but you pick a general company out there and say, hey, I think they're going to go up or go down based on earnings announcements or whatever, or news that you think is coming out. You could go and buy an option, 2 weeks out, 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out, whatever, and you could buy the $35 strike and the $37.50 strike and the $40 strike and the $32.50 strike, and each of those positions you can put 25% of your money in it. So when I look for on-the-run options out there, that's my term out there. When you go through an options set on anything that you look at options on, typically some options dates have more volume than others, and the options close to at the money, need to look that up if you don't know what that means, but at the money options tend to have more volume as well. You can find volatile stocks, which it makes it better to trade. You're really trading on volatility here. On FinViz, and if you don't know how to find FinViz or look that up, Dr. Frank's Finance World out there also has that as a link in there in the places you can go look for stuff. Okay, there is strategies. Liquidity is always important to be true for this competition. It'll be true every day for the rest of your life. It is doubly important on options. You'd be shocked how few of them trade sometimes. And remember that, that you have to basically 200% trading rule means you can be essentially half of the volume. And the interesting thing is on options is maybe early on in the day you want to take the bet, but you haven't traded enough volume for the number you want to buy. It will just keep picking them up and picking them up and picking them up until, at least is 200% of the volume what you try to buy. But at any rate, you may get in at different prices and stuff like that. So be very careful about liquidity. Thinly traded anything is bad. Then depends on what it is you're trading. You can be looking at exchange traded funds on countries and that type of stuff out there, and it may look okay because it trades 10 or 50 or 100,000 volume in a given day. But if it's only trading for $6, guess what? The entire market can be had for 600 grand, and that's not a good place to be. Next is don't sit in cash unless there's a strong downturn in the market. Remember this, markets are up 60% of the time. Keep yourself in the game, so to speak, and I would actually put my money into indexes. There's a million of those out there, but I'd find some that I'm happy with and park my money there. When you park in cash, that is to some degree a loser's game. Play the commodities out there. You can do that typically through the futures markets. You can do it through exchange traded funds, including leverage exchange traded funds. You can also do it through the futures markets. Lots of public data to help you get a clue as to what's going on out there. If you want to go look up trading economics out there, you can see what that looks like. And that is one website that is the link also on what? That's right, Dr. Frank's Finance World under the financial tools. So you can also play options on futures. Yes, that is true. It is, oh, that's my dog, sorry. Leverage on leverage out there, essentially. One class, when the MBA class was fussing with me, because I had just bought some stuff to show them how to trade and I was not winning, I went back and played natural gas futures, and I made 70% in 2 days, and I didn't even put my whole portfolio in it. So, I mean, overall return for the entire portfolio is 70%. It is leverage on leverage. It's interesting that there are certain plays on certain commodities at certain times of year. Obviously, heating oil and natural gas and that kind of stuff is more impacted by the depth of the cold winters. So an interesting thing, I used to work with a group on this in the past. Typically, when you get around March time period, though, you're looking 6 to 8 weeks out. Everybody knows what the winter looks like and it's pretty much over. And you tend to have a cyclical nature to that. And that's something to keep your eyes on as well. So I would consider technical trading. I do technical analysis on the real money I trade. Students have done that and helped themselves out quite a bit in the competition. If you want to know what it's talking about, technical analysis, where do you go? That's right, Dr. Frank's Finance World. I have a whole series on technical trading out there. The key is, of course, to layer them. My personal favorites are Bollinger Bands and RSI. You can go there and learn more about how you can do that as well. Forget crypto. I know it's the love of your life. It is to me, it has a real value of zero. It has more downturns of 40% or more in a year than stocks by a factor of about 6 or 7 to 1. So be careful about that. I've seen many more students get burned than help. Newer exchange traded funds may change this because you get a little bit of diversification, but still, I think crypto is the death nail for any portfolio out there. You may get to day trade, you may not, that depends. But I haven't seen anyone win based solely on day trading, although actually there is day trading you can do with technical analysis, and that same website, DFFW, will give that to you. Don't forget this, and this is a really big warning for you guys out there. When I get students that like to day trade, I am not even kidding, they sometimes don't go to their other classes. I mean, it's really kind of strange. But anyway, this can be very addictive out there, and just keep in mind, it'd be nice to get the extra points or to win it, but it is still just a game. All right, what about other strategies out there? Even if you don't do trade notes, I don't require my students to do trade notes. Maybe your professors do, where you do every single one. I know why they would. It's called journaling. I have clients that I work with on the JBA Wealth, and one of the things we try to get them to do for the independent traders out there is write down what you were thinking, why you bought it, and how you did. It is so easy to forget and get burned again and again and again. It's going to become very important to you when you step out using your own money in the real world. Ignore bonds. Dead money, ignore bonds. No disrespect, but they won't help you in this sort of a competition. The only exception out there is they do have some leveraged ETF ones, and you might think about high yield. But generally speaking, while a diversification strategy can be helpful to a portfolio, the game is not about a portfolio. It's about trading and practicing and trying to win and so forth out there. So this is your chance to play. I am very happy with a lot of students that go out there and just say, I tried this strategy and I tried that strategy. It's just paper money, right? Past different strategies, anything you think of or read about, go check it out. Apply what you're learning in class. That's the whole reason I have my class do a Stocktrak game and a semester project as well, is trying to apply what it is they learn. Finally, ignore mutual funds. They're too diversified to have the volatility to make you money. There might be a few out there, but the vast majority will not. You also cannot short them like you can exchange traded funds. You can't buy on margin like you can with exchange traded funds. And you don't have options like you do with exchange traded funds. And we're getting close to the end here. This is the last one of strategies. Play the game to win. If you get a big lead, consider just going to cash and holding on. That's what I do if you want to win or you want to get the points in the semester. If you're really far behind, roll the dice, baby, and roll it early. It takes about 2 weeks at least for anything good like that to happen. I will say this, and this is hope for the ones that aren't off to a good start or whatever. I have had students who have been in the last place out of 100 or 200 people in a class, and literally over the span of about 6 or 7 weeks have made it to the top 10. In other words, they learn how to play the game. They learn things along the way. So anyway, love Stocktrak, use it for years. Hope you guys find some value in this. Go out and trade and try to beat your compadres. All right, have a great day, man. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.